Hey, how you doing? It's Dave Duford at Buy Life Insurance for Burial, where I help people like you find affordable life insurance and final expense life insurance. And today's topic is how to buy burial insurance without getting ripped off. You're probably watching this video because you're in the midst of doing due diligence, trying to figure out what kind of burial insurance programs are out there, and you want to make sure that you follow the right steps to make sure you get the best price and the best value for what you're paying for. So if that's something you're interested in listening and learning more about, then I definitely ask you to stay tuned because that's exactly what we're going to discuss. So let's get started. So here's an overview of what we're going to talk today about the burial insurance options out there and how to find them and how to buy them without getting ripped off. So I'll formally introduce you to me and my company if you haven't already met me on some of my other videos and articles. We're going to talk about what the actual definition of burial insurance is in case you're wondering exactly how it works and if it's right for you. That definition will help you better understand the functions of burial insurance. Then I'm going to answer, how does burial insurance work? You may be wondering, what does it pay for? How does it pay? Who gets the money? Who doesn't get the money? We'll answer all those questions shortly. Next, we're going to show you or describe what you need to decide on and what needs exist before buying burial insurance coverage. It's important to do a needs analysis. We'll get more into that later, and that will help you have better confidence in what kind of burial insurance you purchase and how much. Then we're going to talk about all the different options for buying burial insurance. This is where the real meat of our presentation is, because there's a lot of different organizations that are sending all sorts of solicitations in different ways, and it can become confusing, at least to the people I talk to. So what we'll talk about is all the ways and the pros and cons to buy burial insurance. We'll talk about so-called mail order burial insurance coverage that's offered through you through the television. We'll also talk about your homeowners or your auto insurance agent, maybe buying it through them and what the advantages or disadvantages are. Then we'll talk about buying through a captive burial agent. I'll talk about what that means. And then lastly, we'll discuss the process of and why you would maybe consider buying through an independent insurance agent. Then we'll talk to you about the entire process from A to Z on buying and getting covered for burial insurance and what that entails. And then I'll show you some next steps if buying a burial insurance policy is something ultimately that does make sense for you. Okay, so my name again is David Duford. I'm the owner and founder of BuyLifeInsuranceForBurial.com. I've been a licensed life insurance agent since 2011. And I've helped over 3,000 families with their life insurance needs. More specifically, I am a specialist in burial insurance. It's pretty much all that I do. I understand the products very intimately and can help people in all sorts of different circumstances and with different needs. I'm also a published author of several insurance-related books. The one that's probably most relevant to you would be The Official Guide to Buying Final Expense Life Insurance. You can see it over there in the left-hand corner. And you can find those at any Amazon website that you decide to go to. Just put in the name and you'll find it. I'm also, in addition to helping people with their burial insurance needs, a life insurance agency owner. I actually train and recruit new and experienced insurance agents on how to sell burial insurance. And they go out and with my teachings, they go help people in their own communities to help them with their burial insurance desires and needs. So it's something that I also train others to do. And lastly, but not leastly, I am married with 4 kids, or at least 4th is on the way at the filming of this. And thank goodness for my wife. That's all I'll say there. So let's talk about the definition of burial insurance. Real simple definition. Burial insurance is just life insurance for final expenses. It's nothing more complicated than that. We call burial insurance or burial life insurance burial insurance because it simplifies the description. People generally want a policy to pay for their funeral or the burial, so we just call it burial insurance, but it acts just like a normal life insurance plan. There's nothing really unique or different about it, so it's just life insurance for final expenses. And when we say final expenses, what we're referring to specifically are funeral and cremation costs. It's the biggest reason why people buy these plans. They just want enough to take care of whatever it costs to bury them or whatever it costs to cremate them. And but it can also cover other expenses too. It's certainly something that's not confined to just whatever the cost that the funeral home gives you. You can also cover things like loans, credit cards, or just leave money behind to somebody you love. There's a lot of control, or is actually complete control, in how you want to dispense of the money through the assignment of your beneficiary. So long story short, this is life insurance, but most people buy it because of funeral-related cost concerns. The insurance company pays the beneficiary death benefit upon passing. And the reason I put this in here is because some people ask me, well, does the funeral home get paid with one of these burial insurance plans? Not necessarily. Now, with some plans, you can assign or dictate that the beneficiary be the funeral home, but 99% of the time, you're probably in this boat too. You'll want a loved one, like a child or a spouse, to be the beneficiary, and that's fine. You have control over who you decide the beneficiary is on your burial insurance policy. And then that beneficiary, again, usually a loved one, decides on how the money is spent. Of course, you want to pick a beneficiary that you trust and love, that somebody that will actually take the proceeds from your burial insurance policy to actually pay for the funeral. I say this because there is no law, unless you've got some sort of will that dictates this, or some sort of legal documentation. There's no control over what that beneficiary does with your money. For all that could happen, they could just fly off to Hawaii for a month-long trip and spend all of it and leave you high and dry. Obviously, that doesn't happen that much, and it certainly won't happen if you trust somebody enough and love somebody enough to put this money in the hands of somebody who will do the job you set out for them to do. So let's talk about how the burial insurance product works, because you know what it's intended for and why people would buy it now. Let's talk about why or how the actual policy works when you take it out, what the fine print says, and then also what the advantages or pros of a burial insurance plan are. So first of all, burial insurance usually operates on what we call whole life insurance programs. Whole life has also been referred to as straight life or permanent life insurance. The best way to remember what whole life means is that it lasts your whole life. It cannot cancel. And building on some of the benefits here, first, the rates never increase. So if you buy a burial insurance plan that's a whole life insurance product, and the quote you receive is locked in place, it will never increase under any circumstances. This gives peace of mind. You don't have to worry about the dreaded rate increase that a lot of other insurance companies, especially as we'll talk about through the mail, give you every 5 years of the policy. Also, with a burial insurance plan that's a whole life product, the coverage can never cancel due to age or health. So this is a huge advantage. Why? Because the nature of death, although is certain to happen, is uncertain as to when. We just don't know when we're going to die. We're going to die tomorrow. We're going to die in 20 years, 40 years. Who knows? So get a product that won't cancel because of getting too old or your health negatively changing. And in many cases, you can get first day full coverage. Now, completely depends upon your unique health situation and what underwriting says after we submit the application. But a lot of people, even with health history issues, we're talking diabetes, cancer history, heart health history, mental health history, taking prescription medications, can get first day full coverage, and they're shocked that they could. So that's where most people end up at. It just depends on some of the health issues ultimately. And lastly here, you probably already know the answer to this question, but I will ask it to you so I can answer it. Why do people prefer whole life burial insurance versus other kinds of life insurance products? Well, it's easy. It's peace of mind. Think about it. The nature of why you buy a life insurance product must match what the problem that you're facing is. And in our case, and why you're watching this, the problem is you're going to die. You can't get around that. It's going to happen to everybody. And the problem is paying for your death. How are we going to pay $10,000 for a funeral, let's say, or $5,000 for a cremation if it's not just lying around and easy to access? How are we going to pay that? Well, we don't want a life insurance plan that we may be able to outlive. Am I wrong, right? You're taking a gamble when you buy some kind of plan like that. Or what if we find a life insurance plan that lasts forever, that we don't have to worry about outliving, and the premiums don't go up because, hey, we're on a fixed income. At least most people are watching this. And why have a fixed income that goes that doesn't go up that high, as you probably know, and where your insurance rates do? So whole life burial insurance plans provide, I believe, maximal peace of mind and get the kind of coverage in place that needs to do the job without all the risks other policies provide. Along with burial insurance plans, usually in most cases, we're talking 99%. There's no examinations. At most, a 15-minute phone interview, and usually these programs are approved in days. They're quick turn. There's no 3-4 week process, even multi-month long process. They get approved fairly quickly. So a lot of people just like that. They just want a plan, covers a burial, easily affordable, boom. This is what does it. Now, if you buy a larger policy, sometimes there's more traditional underwriting where they may go very in-depth to your health history. They may ask for medical records. They may actually have you do some sort of exam. But again, this is the exception. Most people don't get humongous plans. We can help them with that if that's something you want. But most people get enough, just the basic plans, and therefore there's no exam necessary. Okay, so let's talk about where and what process you should follow to find a burial insurance plan. And I think it always starts with a needs analysis. What you need to do as a person looking to buy insurance on yourself or somebody you love, you need to figure out why have it. Obviously you know the answer, the basic answer. Well, I don't want to die without having money to pay for my funeral. Great. Well, let's break that down a little bit further. Do you want to be buried or cremated? So if you want to be buried, what I have seen, what the National Funeral Directors Society says, is that the average cost is between $7,000 and $10,000. Now, I've seen them put their average cost about $8,500. That's why I put $7,000 to $10,000, because a lot of what a burial and a funeral cost depends on what you pick and what items you include or what you don't include. Some funeral homes are lower in price for their average price order. Some are a lot higher. They're upper end type of funeral homes. So you can't give a real firm price, but a range is something comfortable. Now, I say all this because ultimately you should start from the basic cost today. 10,000 is a good number, although a little bit less can be helpful too. So you don't want to have 3,000 or 5,000 for burial when we know that it's going to cost sometimes twice as much, if not more. So hopefully that makes sense. So what we're doing here is we're matching what our desires are with what the facts are. If we know the facts are burial is 10 grand, then we know what the next steps are. We at least need to start from there to get a policy. Let's say you're wanting to be cremated. I recommend somewhere between $3,000 and $6,000 in coverage for cremation. Look, if you just want a direct cremation without any sort of service or wake, it's going to cost less. Therefore, the lower range would be more sensible. If you want a normal service with a wake and have family come in and do the cremation, closer to $6,000 is going to be more sensible. If you've got any outstanding loans, let's say you owe money on a car you want to give to a grandkid or a kid, you want to pay off credit cards or anything like that, could be a reason to add on another $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever the number is. And what are you comfortable paying monthly? I'm big on this. Probably surprising to you, as I am a salesman, to be concerned with affordability. But let's face it, life insurance is something you should buy and keep. It's not something you should buy and then dump in 6 months because it's too expensive. In fact, I tell all my clients, I'm most concerned about just getting you something on the books that's easily affordable. Even if that's a smaller policy, then I would necessarily recommend. Who cares? It's something that's affordable. It's better than the one that you got to drop and then you die and then you don't have anything. So hopefully that makes sense. So get an idea what you're comfortable paying. It can be something over $100. I've had people spend several $100s for life insurance. They're quite comfortable with that. There's some people who would fall out of their chair at those prices. That's fine. The cool thing we can do as life insurance agent is scale the price. Of course, you got to adjust the coverage too. But we can match your desired premium with the amount of coverage that you want. So there's some room for flexibility, and everybody loves options and flexibility. Once you know what you want to accomplish, the process of finding a quality burial insurance plan is much easier. So once you answer all these questions and you know what you want, you're in the perfect position now to figure out, okay, now I know what I want. The next question you got to ask yourself is, what is actually the best route in which to buy a burial insurance policy? This is, again, where we're going to spend most of our time. Burial insurance is a product that really is sold heavily, largely because more people now than ever are in retirement age. They're reaching that retirement age, and let's face it, death is on the mind. And so these insurance companies know there's opportunities to sell burial life insurance. And so there's a lot of different organizations that are marketing it to you. And again, probably why you're watching this, because it can be quite confusing. And you may suspect that some of those offers you get sound too good to be true. So that's what we're going to talk about in this section, a little bit more in depth about the pros and cons of each approach. And then I'm going to tell you what my experiences have been working with these particular types of products. So let's talk about the different ways you can buy burial insurance. A lot of these methods you're familiar with. There's nothing here that's like surprising from how you can do it as much as what the pros and cons are. That's really where you're going to see the most difference. So first method you could do is buy insurance through the mail. If you're over 50, every other day you're getting mailers from companies that are offering you $1 for $20,000 in coverage, or $9.99 a unit, or this is the best life insurance that ever existed. You'd be a fool not to buy. That's basically what they say. And it won't stop. It'll just keep coming. And a lot of it does sound pretty good. And a lot of companies do this route where they do their junk mail advertisements to you. Try to sell you some life insurance. And they do sound like good opportunities. And some of them are. But sometimes the fine print can be a little disturbing. You know, you'll hear things like, no health questions asked. Well, that sounds cool. Your acceptance is guaranteed. Wow, if I just have a pulse, I get approval for coverage. Great. $9.99? Wow, that's cheap. What's a unit, though? Again, these are the things people naturally think that are a little suspicious. So what's the catch? Almost all junk mail burial insurance makes you wait 2 full years before full natural death protection is effective. So in layman's terms, if you go out there, you buy one of these plans, in many cases, and you croak within the next 2 years, you're not getting that $10,000 death benefit you're paying for. You're going to get your money back, what you paid in, plus interest, usually just a meager amount, 10%. So for example, if you're paying $50 a month, you pay on it for 10 months, that's $500 in. You die from a massive stroke. Your beneficiary receives the $500 you paid in, refunded to them, plus 10% interest. That would be $550. So I ask you, is that going to be enough to pay it? $550 or $10,000? Yeah, that's a little bit disturbing. And what I want to show you now are some examples, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. You probably, and you may have seen these restrictions of coverage before, but I'm actually going to show you one of the more popular companies. And I'm going to show you right on their website, and me not making up anything, where they say that they're 2-year waiting period. So hold on one second while I pull this screen off and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are at Colonial Penn's website. There's Mr. Alex Trebek, our favorite Jeopardy host, who is also a compensated endorser, just like the image says. You have received, I am sure, endless supplies of Colonial Penn stuff through the mail and their TV advertisements. And this is their guaranteed acceptance life insurance product. No medical exam, locked-in premium and benefit amount. Sounds great. However, here's the frequently asked questions you must ask. And it's right here at the top. How convenient. Is there a waiting period for the full benefit to take effect? And here's what it says. Acceptance can be guaranteed because of a limited period of death during the first 2 years. So what it's saying there is that if you die, you don't get the full death benefit. How could we be any clearer? So there you have it, folks. That's just the raw deal. And look, you know, you may think, well, I'll probably live 2 years, but what if you don't? Nobody knows you're going to die. Remember, that's the very nature of death. And if you can help it, if your health is good enough to help it, then get something that starts from the first day, like I talked about earlier. Don't submit yourself to a 2-year waiting period when you don't necessarily have to. And what I find is many people I deal with do not have to. And if they would only talk to a broker, someone like myself, I could answer that question within 5 minutes. And if it does work, then keep it. If it doesn't, then find something that fully protects you, because too many of my clients have died faster than I ever imagined within that 2-year period, but luckily we're protected for the full death benefit. And their families certainly thank me a lot more than they would thank Colonial Penn if all they got back was their premiums when it could have been the full death benefit within the first 2 years. Okay, so second option here is buy burial insurance from TV ads, and I'll just keep this part short. This is identical to the junk mail. Most of what you see through the mail is a 2-year waiting period coverage for natural death. It's likely you can do better than the 2-year waiting period. And a lot of times the pricing is just very high. Pricing tends to be more expensive for the stuff that comes through the mail, just because they're literally mailing millions and millions of seniors throughout the country the same thing. All that paper costs a lot of money. And then they've got to house an entire staff to process the policies and make sure everything gets issued. So it's more expensive than just hiring an agent to go out there and find people to sell to. So you'd end up paying higher premiums to offset the promotional effort. So if you don't like paying high premiums relative to what you could get, or being forced into a 2-year wait when you don't necessarily have to for natural death, then don't buy off of the TVs. Example of TV ad burial insurance, I'll just reference Colonial Penns, the same exact thing. If you freeze frame the commercial right at the end and you see that like 10 lines of fine print, if you get up real close and zoom into it, you'll see where it says limited death benefit for 2 years. Same thing for natural death. So there you have it. Number 3, you could go through a local auto and homeowners agent. So this is a fine idea. If you've got auto insurance or homeowners insurance and you want to work with somebody you already know and trust, this is an option for you. And look, that's really the biggest pro of this, is that you can find somebody that you've already trusted. You know that if you felt like they've done a good job, maybe they'll do a good job with their life insurance. And there's certainly truth to that. I will propose some things to consider, though, that could be potential cons. So first of all, most insurance agents that sell auto insurance or sell homeowners insurance, they represent one company. And that one company only represents one product for life insurance, or maybe several, but they don't have any other different companies. You see, a one-trick pony is how you have to look at these types. They can only offer you their pricing, their coverage, their terms for how they do their life insurance, and it may not be the best option for you. And so what happens when there's low options? You don't necessarily get the best value, right? That's why we go to Starbucks and we can create a real drink to the exact design that we want it. That's why they're so successful versus just saying, here's a coffee or here's, I don't know, a latte. You know, they've customized this process and people love that. And when you buy life insurance, shouldn't you do the same thing? Because you're not going to get that if you go, in many cases, to your local auto agent. Now here's the thing, kind of like insider knowledge here. A lot of auto insurance agents or homeowners insurance agents hate life insurance. They don't get it. They got into the business of how they do business primarily by selling auto insurance. They understand the underwriting process, the claims filing process. That's where they specialize in. Life insurance is an offshoot. Sure, they have to sell it. Actually, many times the corporations push them to sell it as part of their bonus and quota structure. But they don't really understand the nuances. They don't understand, and many times, sometimes even the difference between products and why one would be better for a client than another. So you're dealing with somebody who definitely you can trust with your auto insurance, but you have to question how well they understand the life insurance component, because many times it just won't be as effective. And just think about it, you know, reverse the roles here. I specialize in burial insurance. If I picked up somebody who wanted auto insurance, I don't know the first thing about auto when it comes to selling auto insurance. And I could go get a company and I could sell them something, but would I necessarily be doing the best job on premiums, on coverage quality? Not really. I'd want to refer them to the specialist that can do a better job. And that's how I look at life insurance for burial. You really need to deal with the specialist, as we'll get into in a moment. And rates sometimes are a lot higher. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they are when you buy through the auto guide, because look, limited options. Less options usually means higher price. And sometimes they're much tighter on underwriting than a lot of life insurance companies are. Or if you deal with a burial insurance specialist, they may make you take, even for small amounts of coverage, take an examination. Again, things you want to really avoid. Now, here's the thing. I mentioned earlier you could work through a specialist. This is my preferred and recommended route when buying any kind of life insurance, or any insurance really in general. Find somebody who's a master at it, because there's just so many options out there. Let them do the job. They've already paid the price, understanding the carriers and the underwriting. Let them do the job to find the best deal for you. So there's two types of specialists in the burial insurance business. There's captive agents and independent agents. So a captive agent means they only work, the insurance agent works for one company only. They work for one company. They sell one product, and they represent that one company. Here's the problem. Let's start with the pros. Pros is they have knowledge of burial insurance. You know, if you're working for a burial insurance and you only work with one company, you understand their product very well. That's all you do. You have the specialty. You're going to understand how burials work. It's a good thing to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And they understand how underwriting works and going to have a little more flexibility than, say, the captive agent or the agent that sells you auto insurance. Now, here's the cons. I really think that working with a captive agent is the worst option, and when it comes to a specialist. And here's the reason. Many of the captive agents that work for just one company have the highest premiums relative to the other insurance companies that offer burial insurance out there. So you want to ask yourself, do you want to pay several $100s more a year for life insurance coverage when you don't have to? And the other thing is that sometimes, because there's one product, these companies only look at insurance or look at underwriting in their own way. Whereas if you look at all the different insurance products out there, they'll have little differences in underwriting acceptance issues. Take, for example, there's one company out there that's captive that doesn't take COPD. That's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, a lung problem. Whereas there's plenty of products that the specialist who is a broker or an independent agent will get first day full coverage. So this is exemplary, where you are going to be underserved in that market if you have that condition by working with a captive agent. And you'll pay a lot more and then be forced in many cases into limited coverage for the first 2 years by natural death when you don't have to. So that's how that works. Let's talk about being and working through an independent agent, because I think this is the superior method. Why? Because they're going to offer you the best combination of value and pricing. So when I say value, what I mean by that is trying to get the most coverage that is effective from the first day without that limited 2-year waiting period. And best pricing, when I say that, I mean just the most competitive premiums that you allow for me to find for you. Who wants, at the end of the day, everybody wants to pay the best price and get the best value. And in many cases, the burial insurance agent that works as an independent agent offers that. So let's talk about what that really means. You may be wondering, well, what's an independent agent? How does that work? So first of all, the defining characteristic of an independent burial insurance agent is they have access to a variety of burial insurance options. So this simply means that we don't work for one company. I work with a multitude of them. And when I sit down with my clients, I look at their health history, I look at their prescription history, I ask them a good amount of health questions. It just takes a few minutes. And within 5 to 10 minutes, I know which company is going to give the best chance of offering the best coverage available, meaning the best combination of value and pricing. So what happens with that, again, the more options you have, the better deal you're going to get. So access gives us access to competitively priced products. You don't have to pay more out of your fixed income than you have to. You can pay a competitive premium, or for whatever you are going to pay, you can max out your coverage and not have more of it go unnecessarily to paying for a higher price to the insurance company. Who wants to give more money to the insurance company anyway? That's what they're made of, money, right? Also, access gives you better underwriting. Again, there's so many people I can get covered that are absolutely shocked that they can get covered. Give you a couple of case studies. COPD clients can get first day full coverage in most cases with companies I offer. I can insure first day full coverage for people who have had several years past since their cancer was there, since their treatment for cancer stopped, since any heart events like strokes, stents, bypass, heart attacks, open heart surgery, pacemaker, since I can get first day full coverage for people with behavioral health problems, from as minor as anxiety as all the way as serious as something like schizophrenia, bipolar, PTSD, clinical depression. There's a lot of flexibility when working with an independent agent, again, that you cannot find through a captive agent. So if you're looking for burial insurance and value is important and a competitive price is important, you're going to find that an independent agent really is probably going to give you the best overall options for that. And I honestly gave some thought as to some of the cons here, and I can't help myself. Hopefully you'll, I beg your forgiveness. If you work with me, you have to do so over the phone or through the mail. You probably won't see me face to face since I work with people all over the place throughout the country. And look, it's an unfortunate reality, but there's really honestly no drawbacks. There's just, if you deal with somebody who actually has a lot of different insurance companies, who's a specialist, who understands it, and looks out for the client first, and matches the product to the client's needs based on coverage, desire, and price, how can you go wrong? There's not really that many cons. And that's why independent agents really are the best to work with when it comes to buying burial insurance. So let's start to cool this down and start to wrap this up by talking about how to qualify for burial insurance. It's very easy to apply. First, pick an agent like me that you want to work with. Of course, I'll nominate myself. And second, after you find someone you trust and you like, have the agent listen to your needs, draw up a quote for you, and then once you're accepted with some kind of life insurance product for burial insurance, then apply over the phone or the internet. Again, it's not necessary to even have a visit from an agent nowadays. All these burial insurance companies will do it over the phone completely, or do it via the internet and email. And then usually it takes really several days, not weeks. You'll get approved. You'll get your decision on coverage, and then you'll get your policy, and that's it. Very easy process, not complex, straight to the point. So final steps. Let's say you like what you've seen, you like the reason why it makes sense to buy from an independent agent, and you understand I am an independent agent, and you'd like to talk to me. Not necessarily buy, but at least have a conversation. Here's what you need to do. So you've seen down there in the corner, you got my phone number. That is the easiest way to reach me. The number is 888-626-0439. Leave me a message if you don't reach me. I'm talking to people all day, so you leave a message. I'll call you back within the next 24 hours. Or if you're not the talk on the phone type, that's fine. Let's start our conversation by you going to my website. It's buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. You can click on the contact box, submit a quote that way, or just request a quote. We'll start exchanging emails. Or you can look at the lower portion of the screen. There's a pop-up box where you can chat with me live if I'm available, or you can send me a quick message, and we can just conversate via email till you're comfortable enough to talk on the phone. And then if you've got any comments or questions or anything like that, feel free. You can, if you want to keep it private, just go to my website and contact me, or call, or just leave a comment below. I'll reply to it as soon as I get it. And other than that, I do hope you got some value out of the training today and the education. If I can be of any service to you, please let me know. Again, my name is David Duford at buylifeinsuranceforburial.com. Take care.